And welcome back to the Houston Texans franchise rebuild. Here today, well, we have another off season, as well as today is going to be a very different episode and something that I have never actually done on this channel. But welcome back to the channel, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. Please leave a like, comment down below what you thought. Let me know down below any sort of feedback that you have for these type of episodes, and please subscribe to the channel. So, we're now wrapping up here the Houston Texans rebuild here in Madden 23. You guys are going to start to see Madden 24 content coming over to the channel. But, you know, I wanted to do something different that I didn't do with either the Falcons franchise or the Jets, which is really wrap up the story. And the story for this team is, for starters, can we win a Super Bowl? That's one of the big questions. And then for a lot of the players that we have come to know and love, what will their career stats, ending stats, really look like? You know, for players like Nico Collins, Damian Pierce, Paul Wilkerson, Mason Pryor, players on the defensive side of the ball, and Marcus Cook, Derek Stingley, Christian Harris. You know, we have so much talent across this team and so many players that we have both brought in through free agency and who we've grown over these last 5 years. So, and I don't really know how I'm gonna set up these episodes. I have no idea. Probably this episode will every episode will probably be a tad bit different. But what we're gonna go through is a whole off season today. And then we will be going through the whole regular season of year 6. And then if we make it to the Super Bowl, especially this year, then we will end up, then I'm going to pause the recording. We're going to make a separate episode strictly just for the Super Bowl. I think that's kind of how I want to do it for these episodes. Now, let's just say we do that in this go around here in year 6, then in year 7, then I will not be playing in the Super Bowl. We'll probably hop into the game. So there's a few things that I will be delegating to now the GM, you know, both between the scouting and all of that stuff. For right now, I'm gonna handle it though in this first season. But yeah, guys, disappointed way to end year 5, losing the AFC Championship game to now the Kansas City Chiefs. And in reality, what are some of our major question marks entering now into free agency and this offseason? And that's what we're going to get into. But let's go see who will win the Super Bowl here. Super Bowl 61, the Chiefs versus the Carolina Panthers. And the Carolina Panthers have won, I believe, their first ever Super Bowl here. Luke Gordon, the rookie quarterback, the 11th overall pick in this past draft class. He is your Super Bowl MVP. He beat the Kansas City Chiefs. So now the Carolina Panthers are the team to beat. They went from worst to first and all the way to the Super Bowl. As you guys can see, Luke Gordon also won Offensive Rookie of the Year for his Carolina Panthers. So now we're moving on here to year 6 into another off season. We have some upgrades to go through. We will go through a little bit of the scouting and all of that. We got plenty of upgrades. All of these players were on our practice squad. So I'm only going to go through the important ones like Leon Holt. This is a name that you guys should know. Holt was a starter actually a year ago. He actually might have an opportunity to make this roster again. He is 25 though, and he is purely a deep threat. We have plenty of those on this roster. Another player that was a starter or more of a special teamer, Carl Watkins here, who was mostly utilized in special teams and as the third linebacker. We'll go with pass coverage with him. Quality linebacker. And then for everyone else, I will do their upgrades. Actually, well, Rashad Jackson was another player that we did draft. So I'll do this upgrade. We'll do a power rusher with him. As we now have hit the off season, and obviously there's a lot of questions to go through, let's start fairly quickly by going through the scouting and any sort of the mock drafts and stuff. So it looks like the 49ers have the first overall pick. We're not really thinking about trading up. You know, this is not a year I think we will trade up. There's a few players that I see going off the board, and they're saying that we're going to take Zach Wells. I like Zach Wells a lot, but probably not going to take him in the first round with the 30th overall pick. So we're picking at the back end of the first round, you know, so we're most likely not going to be able to get a premier talent. But when you look at our overall board, you gotta, you know, really in reality, the positional groups that we're looking at is, you know, off-ball linebacker, wide receiver, tight end, some running backs, some defensive tackles, safety is important, and corner, some offensive linemen that I took a look at, and a couple quarterbacks that I like. So, you know, I definitely think that ending this draft class with getting potentially another tight end is important. As much as I like Richard Palmer, you know, getting a player like a Will Cox or Gabriel Farrell, I think these are two very good tight ends that could really come in and really help out the team day one. Of course, getting an offensive lineman early on could also be very beneficial to this team. You know, we're gonna make some moves across this board here. Defensively, you know, I would really be considering drafting a defensive lineman, though off-ball linebackers more the wheelhouse that I'm considering. Either that or going someone in the secondaries, either a safety or corner. You know, with now Jabril Peppers and Jalen Petre's contracts going to be ending soon, we got to be thinking about the long-term future of this team, and drafting a safety is very important. Now, you know, when you first look at this roster, in reality, what are going to be some questions as we enter into this current offseason? And we really have two major ones. The first one is Paul Wilkerson. What are we going to do with his contract? 25 years old, entering into year 5. He's a top 17 wide receiver in this league. He's a big playmaker. He's been a 1,000-yard receiver, over 10 touchdowns, I believe, in every year except his rookie season. We know how good Paul Wilkerson is and can be. We've seen him put up very different numbers every single season. He can be a deep threat, and he can make the big plays like he did in year 2. He can just be that sure-handed wide receiver like he was in year 3. Or he can be a quality target as he was this past season or his rookie year. You know, I think that there's a lot of, you know, obvious wanting to keep Wilkerson on this roster and keeping the band together as much as we possibly can. But, you know, we do have a player like a Nico Collins on this roster making a lot of money. We have, you know, a couple young receivers. Now, I will sit here and say this. Geno Duvall did let us down in the playoffs. Fumbling that football was the turning point in the AFC Championship game. And you almost have to sit here and wonder, you know, is Duvall really ready to become a number 2 wide receiver? Because if not, then, you know, then what? You know, we don't have Ridley under contract. Tyler Miller, who's going to enter into now year 3, you know, he's more of a physical receiver, more of an underneath guy. He can play in the slot, but, you know, how good is Tyler? I don't know. The real question is, and this is the question we won't really know until next year with Mason Pryor and his contract, you know, I don't know how much money Pryor's going to want. I think he's going to want big dollars, and we're going to give him big dollars. So, you know, I don't know if keeping another top tier wide receiver under contract. Now, the other thing that I could push on myself with this is, you know, we're not paying Scott Washington, Devin Gardner. We're going to be moving Troy Agnew to right tackle, and he's going to become our new starting right tackle. So we have 3 linemen that are not being paid, and, you know, Tunsil is on a year-to-year basis at this moment in time. So in reality, we're only paying 1, 2, 3, 4 players on the offense, and at the current juncture, you know, 3 players. So, you know, we probably could afford to keep Paul Wilkerson on this roster and give him an extension. But the other extension that we have to be considering is Roman Nova here. You know, Nova is now entering into his own year 5. 26 years old, though he doesn't play a premier position. You know, Nova came in here and he became a starter in his second season, and he took off 22 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 3 interceptions, and he has been consistent throughout his whole career. Obviously, 26 years old. I don't really know how, you know, much longer he has in the tank. I know he can play until he's 31 years old, but, you know, the real question is, we have right now Derek Stingley under contract. We just played Steven Dalton. We have to make a decision on Nick Bosa, John Franklin Myers. And, you know, a part of me wants to get younger and more talent on this roster. And as we see the development trade of John Dawson here, and John here is a superstar development defensive tackle. And, you know, we drafted him, and I was hoping that he could potentially replace John Franklin Myers. And I think he's ready to do so with this development trait, 100%. So, you know, this is the other question is, you know, do we sit here and basically say to ourselves, it's time to trim off potentially some of this fat? You know, how much of this team do we keep around? I don't know. You know, I'm excited for this offseason, but this offseason is going to have a lot of questions. So I do think trying to keep both Nova and Wilkerson on this roster, though, is our top 2 priorities, mostly because those are our top 2 free agents. So let's see how much money they're asking for, as we're sitting here with $88 million to work with. And how much of that do I want to roll over? That's the other question. So we have 15 potential free agents here. Paul Wilkerson wants a 4-year, $80 million. That's $20 million a year. I definitely think that is affordable, and that's something that is definitely doable with our team. And then Roman Nova now wants a 4-year, $42 million contract. I also think that's very affordable. You know, I think that we can't afford these 2 contracts, and I think that trying to keep actually both of them is in the best interest of this team, if I'm going to be 100% frank with you guys. So, you know, our first round pick might be taking the best player available. So let's start here with Roman Nova, though. I am going to offer them both 5-year contracts, just so that I don't have to worry about their contracts for the duration of the rebuild. So for Nova, we're going to offer him a 5-year, $55 million deal. I know it's not a premier position, maybe not the most realistic, but Nova, what do you say? And Roman Nova accepts. So we get our star linebacker to come back. And then for Paul Wilkerson, I want to give him I want to make this, for starters, a 5-year, $100 million contract. This is about $20 million a year. To be the number 2 wide receiver, to be the guy. Will he stay? And he does. So we're keeping the band together. We're keeping our 2 high premier players here in-house, which is, in my opinion, is very important. Now, when you look at the rest of this roster, Morgan Barnett here, we're going to let walk. Adoree Jackson, we're going to let him test free agency. I think Brenton McLean is ready to take over. Rashad Evans, he's an excellent 3rd linebacker, but we're going to let him test. Same with Calvin Ridley. I already said that I'm going to be moving off of Tevin Booth, so we're going to move off of Booth. Same with Christopher Lockhart here. Cam Robinson, yeah, we're not going to let these guys come back. Now for Matt Gay, this is a contract that I would like to keep, actually. But I think we might, if he's willing to take a 1-year, and I'm willing to go like a year-to-year basis with him. And Matt Gay declines. How much is the franchise tag? Okay, yeah, we'll tag Matt Gay. So 1 year, $5 million. Either way, he just makes a little extra money. For the rest of these players, you know, I think getting younger as well is important. Pat Vernon, he was an excellent player for us, but getting younger on the back end is important to me. So We're gonna let all these other players walk. We'll enter into free agency with about $55 million, and we'll see if we can make a splash here or there. But overall, I don't think we're gonna be too active here in free agency. Before we look at free agency, what are potential moves that we should be considering? I think for starters, a backup running back does make a whole lot of sense, though we do have both Wooden and White here. They can probably play behind Dameon Pierce. We have the big three still. So in reality, I don't think that getting a wide receiver makes a whole lot of sense right now. Maybe some offensive line depth. We have Ben Powers, who's our highest rated backup. Maybe getting a good tackle behind. Getting a good tackle is important. Maybe getting a number 2 tight end, but I almost want to draft someone because I don't know how long Richard Palmer is going to really stay on this roster. And when we flip it over to the defense here, probably getting another off-ball linebacker. That does make a whole lot of sense. Getting another corner just in the room does as well. Now, 2 players that could potentially get traded is John Franklin Myers and Jabril Peppers. Both of these 2 players are veterans. They've been around for a while now. They're not going to be here for the whole rebuild or for the rest of the rebuild in reality. We could look to get at least some type of draft capital for them and allow some of the younger players to get some reps now. Though I kind of want to go all in on this season, pay Mason Pryor, and then we'll go from there. So players like a Larry Young and a John Dawson, they might have to wait another season before they get their premier starting role. But I think Brenton McLean is ready to take the next step to be the starter. I think that Troy Agnew is ready to start at right tackle. So I don't know how active we'll be here in free agency, but we'll see. And here is your free agency class, I guess. We got Cooper Kupp, Ed Oliver, Gabe Davis, Justin Reed, Zach Parman. Okay, we have a few talented players out here, players that we recognize their names, Ryan Bradshaw. I think this could be a year that we could consider getting a quality backup quarterback. Maybe, some of these players we should definitely be considering, at the quarterback position. Running back, Eric Kyle, we could take him from the Tennessee Titans. That might be a good move. George Howard, he was definitely a player that I would consider bringing in, if we just look at Howard's abilities. He's more of a receiving back, and I think he could play the role of what Tony Pollard played a few years ago. So could be a potential option. I don't think we need to go after a wide receiver. I think if we do, we'll draft someone. In terms of tight end, I don't think that we'll go after anyone. Felix Matthews, we could go after. I don't know why he doesn't have any interest with us. What is his motivation? So he wants to be close to home. Nah, I guess that makes sense. But I don't think that, we could go after a tight end, an offensive lineman. I don't want to pay someone. We could bring back Carl Brooks, why not, bring back someone who was on this roster for a few seasons. He's a good player too. What did he do as a Giant? 2 years as a Giant, 8.5 sacks last year, really played a premier role. We'll see, probably not. We'll let him take get an opportunity somewhere else. I don't think that we're going to really target anyone here besides maybe getting some. Maybe we'll go out there and try to get some quality depth, but that's about it. I just don't see myself wanting to pay massive contracts to players. So I don't really understand, but it says I have 3 active negotiations when I have right now 0. But there will be 2 players we're going to target here. We're going to go try to bring back Trey McBride here, offer him a 1-year deal, as well as Jake Matthews, trying to just bring in 2 quality veterans, both on 1 year, $5 million. I think these are 2 quality backups for the positional groups that we kind of need. I just don't think that free agency offers us anything else. Linebacker is potentially another spot, but I think we could get that in the draft. So let's evaluate these two spots here and see if we get two new Texans or one new Texan, and we do. So we get Jake Matthews and Trey McBride, but I think that's free agency here. We do have a 5th-year option to pick up here. Let's go see. And it is for Marcus Cook, who we traded up a few years ago. Absolutely, I want to pick this contract up. You know, he's an excellent corner. He might be playing to the slot for us this year. I don't know just yet. Either him or what's his name? Or Breton McLean will be playing. And then we have David Elliott. Now, this is a difficult one because Elliott has not worked out at all. And there's a part of me that doesn't want to pick this up, but then there's a part of me that does. And the reason I want to pick it up is because, you know, Elliott, I'm going to give Elliott this season to really prove himself. I don't know. Let's pick it up. Let's give him one extra season just in case. You know, worst case scenario, we just trade him. So we'll pick up the 2 5th-year options there for both Marcus Cook and David Elliott. We also had no retirements. I forgot to show you guys that. I am trying to pick up the pace a little bit with these off seasons and stuff, just so then we're not fully indulged into them. So these episodes can be focused on other things. So let's go take a quick little recap here of free agency, see any sort of moves. So Cooper Kupp is going to Seattle. Ed Oliver's joining the Tennessee Titans. Gabe Davis going to the Chargers. Justin Reed going to the Ravens. Zach Parman going to Detroit. Evan Ingram going to Dallas. Tremaine Armstead going to the Eagles. George Howard going to the Niners. So, a few moves here. Not really anything on our end. Adoree Jackson going back to the New York Giants, who we traded him from. But really not too many surprising moves. I mean, Rashad Evans going to the Dallas Cowboys. Let's go see if some of our players that I recognize here. So Carl Finley is still a free agent right now. What's his name? Brandon Cooks went to the Giants. I don't know if Calvin Ridley signed with of course he signed with Kansas City Chiefs. John Minchie's still out there. Trying to think if who else was a player that we had. Carl Brooks, he went to the New York Jets, so he's staying in New York. I don't think that there's any other players that I sit here and just recognize off the top or remember off the top of my head. John Duke going to Washington. I think he's staying in Washington, actually. Yeah, so let's move on. Let's move our focus now to the NFL draft. So with our 3 private workouts, I think when I sit here and I look at this, you know, I want to get more information on Quandreas Drake here. I want to get more information on him just because he's our top-rated corner. In terms of safeties, there is, I forget his name. I think it's Pat Keys off the top of my head. I'm looking. I wrote players' names down to see who I should be considering. Is it Keys? You know what? I didn't even write down safety. So, you know what? We're gonna go with Pat Keys here. And then the final player was Gabriel Farrell here. So these will be the 3 players. We're going to get some more information on some players in the secondary and a tight end. And I think that these are definitely in line with our first round draft pick. And here we go, the beginning of the 2027 NFL draft here. We have the 30th overall pick. The 49ers have the first overall pick. I think we're going to kind of go through this fairly quickly, just like I do in the other with the other off seasons. We'll kind of focus in on here on the first round, and then we'll kind of move forward. I don't see myself trading up for any potential prospects. There isn't anyone here that I sit here and just say to myself, my goodness, I gotta go get. So I'm gonna let the draft class kind of fall and see who in reality who we can go get, Got 90% on now Farrell. Let's quickly check out these players. So Farrell now has A catching, A deep route running. He's 23 years old. He's an elite tight end with an elite speed and strength. So I definitely think he's in line here with our first round pick. For our other player, we looked at Pat Keys here. Keys is 21 years old. Hybrid safety here for us. You know, good speed, quality speed. Actually, it's great speed in terms of the game. So Pat Keys might be an important player to go get. And then finally, we looked at Quandre Drake here. I think Drake would be more of a second round pick for us. Okay, good enough speed. And, you know, with his, I think with that B zone or B man coverage, excuse me, I think he can handle himself. But let's go through this draft class here. We'll go through the first round like we normally do, and then we'll go through this, then we'll pick up the pace here. So with the first overall pick, the San Francisco 49ers draft Jamarcus Blake here, an outside linebacker. The Dolphins drafted a Nathan Smith here. The Browns are drafted Carlos Derp. I don't know. Jared Brennan here goes to the Bengals. Eric Hendricks here, or Harris, excuse me, going to the Rams. The New York Giants, who they go get? Mike Moore, defensive lineman. Andrew Durant here going to the Eagles. DJ Wagner here going to the Jags. So they got themselves a new starting tight end. Meeks here going to the Commanders. The Buccaneers drafted Darren Miller here, as the Falcons drafted Anthony Peters. So still a lot of players that I like are still on the board. Jeff Hancock here going first quarterback. So the Vikings are now going with a new direction here, as they let their starting quarterback hit free agency. The Bills drafted a defensive lineman here, helping out their front seven here. So far, not too many players that I recognize, so we might be able to get the cream of the crop. Kenny Rudolph here going to the Steelers. So a couple off-ball linebackers, Greg Stewart, as the Titans are helping out their offensive line, which they need help. Stephen Ford. Ford was a player that I really like. He's going to the Chicago Bears. Here's the first wide receiver going to the Denver Broncos. And then Bruce Allen. So the Lions are also starting with a new quarterback here. So two quarterbacks going in the first round. And that's really doesn't happen too often. The Colts drafted Greg, defensive lineman here, helping out their pass rush a little bit. Eric Simmons going to the, I don't even remember what team there were. The Raiders drafted a tackle here. Will Fox here going to the Dallas Cowboys. And I feel like they just signed a tight end in Evan Ingram. Well, we're on the clock now. And Charlie Booth here, wide receiver, going to the Arizona Cardinals. So, we're sitting here right now. There's definitely, Pat Keys is there. He's probably a very good draft pick. But there's other players here that we could definitely be considering here. Not going to be considering quarterback. I think it's just, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for us to draft a running back. Wide receiver at this current juncture in time, I just don't see myself wanting to go back-to-back years with wide receiver. Now, I definitely think, we have Eddie Oliver fully scouted. He is a first to a second round talent, but I think Gabriel just seems a little bit more interesting. Now let's just check out Eddie Oliver. Now he's a little slower, but he has still that he has that A run blocking. He's 21 years old, so he's a couple years younger. Probably would be able to play throughout the rest of this franchise. But do we draft a tight end here? That's the first obvious question here. Brandon Staley here. We could draft our future starting left tackle with this position. Probably more of a run blocker. He has good strength, which, Brandon could be a future prospect for us. Same thing with James Smiley here. Probably an interesting player to go get. Not thinking about, though, I think if we're going to draft a lineman, it would almost be right now or never. I don't think I'm going to draft a defensive lineman, no matter how much I love drafting my defensive lineman. Though, you know, a player like Kareem Rivers here is very interesting. That pass rush, those pass rushing moves are very interesting. As well as he has good speed. He's a good athlete. He's a quality athlete here. So Rivers could be in play just for the more that interesting position here. But do we need a defensive tackle? Could go out there and get our off-ball linebacker. You know, in Justin Cannon, he is my favorite out of the two between him and Isaiah Stokely here. Could get our linebacker of the future. We could wait as well. For Chris Slayton here, I just don't see myself going a corner. I just don't. I think we have the guys in the room. I almost think right now when you sit here and look at the roster, you know, if we sit here and look at the roster and this is like, do we go BPA or do we go with a future starter? So what I mean by that is, you know, do we go out there and get a future starting left tackle or tight end? You know, those are right now probably the two spots where we could use a future player, because those two guys might either leave or retire at the end of the year. Same with Jabril Peppers. So do we either go a tackle, a tight end, or a safety, or do we sit here, draft a defensive tackle, trying to just get the best player available, or do we just kind of secure our linebackers for the next 5 seasons, you know, and draft Justin Cannon here? I do think Cannon could end up falling in the into the second round. Definitely think that is a possibility. Though when you also sit here and look at defensive tackle, you know, we already have plenty of starters across the board. So I definitely think that this is more of a position where we either draft a safety or a tackle. And the reason for that is Tunsil is what, 32 years old, 33 years old. He's probably gonna, and he's starting to regress. You know, he's now the 10th best tackle, not a top 5 tackle. Or we go out there and get a safety and basically sit here and say that, you know, we'll try to keep Jalen Petrie for as long as he can play. You know, we have Larry Young at a first round safety. I definitely think that could be the direction that we take. Or do we go out there and get the interesting player and draft the tight end? I think we'll make this very simple. I really do think that going out there and getting interesting, talented players is what we should do. Though this might be surprising for you guys, I think we're gonna draft Gabriel Farrell here. The reason for this is that we need more talent across this offense, and Farrell, he just screams talent at me, so let's go get him. And Farrell has 88 speed and hidden developments here, 88 acceleration, 92 agility, 83 change of direction, and 85 jumping. I think Farrell here could potentially be our new starting tight end. He's a big playmaker, 23 years old. Very happy with this selection. Though I don't think we should be done here in the first round. Let's move past here. The Kansas City Chiefs, I do not want to trade up with them. As Pat Keys does go. Keys is now off the board. I do think now working with the Carolina Panthers makes a whole lot of sense. Now, why? Because I kind of like Rivers a lot. You know, we do have, you know, we only have 2 4s, a 5, a 6, and a 7. And then we don't have any other draft, and then we don't have a 7th for next season. I think that we go up and try to go get Rivers. And I think that this could potentially work in our favor. I don't know what I'm clicking. No idea. But I think we go get our players that can really set up for the future. I do want to, though, check out this Carolina team and see if they have a need at the spot that I'm hoping that they have a need at. And that's at defensive tackle. Kind of. You know, they have Derek Brown. They don't need him. Yeah, no, never mind. As we sim all the way here to the second round now, we're back on the clock here at the back end of the second round here. Now, what can we go do here? So, you know, Justin Cannon, I see him, he's there, and that might be the spot. Not looking at a quarterback. I think a running back we could get later on. Same with a receiver. We got our tight end for the future. I kind of think now we're probably not going to draft an offensive lineman until the end of the class. Robinson here, someone else that I would draft. Same thing with the defensive line. I think right here it's basically either draft, I think we go out there and we draft our linebacker, and that's Justin Cannon here. I think this is a very cut and dry selection here. A zone coverage, B tackle, B's block shed. He's gonna play off-ball linebacker or outside linebacker for us. So Justin Cannon is the pick. 87 speed, also hidden development. 89 change of direction. 80 agility. 70 or acceleration is 89, and 70 change of direction. But also hidden development here. Justin Cannon, very happy with this selection now. Now we will be simulating here to the fourth round. Well, now with these selections here in the fourth round, and really for the rest of this draft class, we're just looking to get quality depth and quality players across the board. So, you know, again, not thinking about quarterback, could look at a running back. That's something that we could do. Could consider one of these wide receivers. Is there an offensive lineman still on my board? No. We have Martin Robinson, who would be a quality depth defensive lineman. Terrence Brooklyn, or Brook, he would be a quality player at the defensive line spot. Yeah, I think here. Now, what about Charlie Ruckers here? He's 6'2", 21 years old, A press, Z zone coverage. What was his speed? Okay, he's ran a solid speed. Ruckers could be in play here. I do, though, think when you look at the team, when we sit here and think about this, you know, we have 4 defensive tackles. We could consider drafting another edge rusher in Martin Robinson here. I definitely think Robinson's in play, though. I think we go get Terrence here. Terrence Brooks brings that more of that run stopping ability. 21 years old. I've been really enjoying drafting these top tier run stoppers, as well as he has elite strength. And I think if we can get 2 young defensive tackles with elite strength to plug up the holes, I think it's going to be very good. So Terrence is the pick here in the 4th round. And Terrence is normal development, but has 99 strength here. But that normal dev definitely bites. I think he will help out the depth across this defensive tackle group, and really help out the youth of this team. As we're gonna sim now to the 4th round. And this is either we're gonna draft probably one of these receivers, or we will draft, you know, Oliver is still in play. I think that this is either, you know, you get Martin Robinson here. We still have a 5th round, 6th round, and a 7th round. So I think right here we're gonna go get Oliver. You know, I don't think that Ruckers or Gribbs is really worth it. I think we go get Roman Oliver here. 23 years old, very good speed, 2nd in the class. So Oliver's the selection here. Hidden development, interesting. I did not expect that. I expected an Oliver to be normal dev, but 90 speed, 90 acceleration, 87 agility, 74 change of direction. Not the best, but he's more of a power guy, and I think that Oliver can really help out here. Okay, moving on to the 5th round now. So I think it's one of these wide receivers, or if Martin is there, and I kind of want to prioritize Martin a little bit, and he is off the board. So who else is on the board right now? So we have the quarterbacks and the receivers. So I think we're drafting one of these receivers here. We might get 2. So we have James Palmer, 6'4", 21 years old, out of Clemson. good ratings to start off here. Decent speed, as the game will say. Then we have Justin Lewis, 6'5", 21 years old, out of Duke. Better speed, not much better. And then we have Brian Kitchens here. And Kitchens is 22 years old, out of Army. And he's more of a deep threat. Better speed. I think here, and we might double up at wide receiver. I think if we can get 2 of these guys, this kind of makes sense. I think here we go get James Palmer, 6'4" out of Clemson, 21 years old. Let's go get James Palmer here. 88 speed, but also hidden development here. Oh my goodness. We're hitting on some of these later round prospects here. So James Palmer here could be pushing out players like Tyler Millard and hell, even Gino Duvall. Duvall might be on the hot seat now. Okay, moving on here to the 6th round. We got a talented receiver here in the 5th. Who else is on our board? We still have Levi Gibbs here, and I might end up just drafting him just because I do think we could get one of these 2 players in the later end. So let's get Levi. You know what? We need a backup safety anyways. He's a quality player, so Levi is the player. He has 87 speed, normal dev, 22 years old. Welcome to the team. And here in the 7th round, our last pick of year 6's draft class. Who will we go get? So Mike Cooper is the only player still on the board. How many quarterbacks do we have? We have 3 active quarterbacks. The receivers are all gone. I think we kind of take whoever looks like the most interesting player. Now, James Richardson, he was a day 2 to 3 prospect, and he's fallen massively. I don't think we need a running back. We drafted a receiver, drafted a tight end. We could go get a lineman, and that's something that's definitely could be in play here. Even now, I still think about the 7th round draft picks, even though typically they don't make too much of an impact on the series. But even now, I still think about them in a massive role. I think that we actually go get a middle linebacker. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. I think we draft the best middle linebacker, or the fastest middle linebacker that we can find. Well, I found the fastest linebacker projectedly in the class here. He has a 4.5 speed, but I was also looking at hit power here. Now, Steven Gabriel might not be the best player, but who knows? He's a 7th round pick. Welcome to the team. And he has 86 speed, so not the fastest player in the draft class. Normal development, probably a good backup. And here is your draft class here. Gabriel Farrell is 74 overall. Justin Cannon also is 74 overall. With Terrence Burks with also 74 overall. So we got 3 74 overalls. Roman Oliver, 70. James Palmer, 69. Nice. Levi Gibbs, 62. And then Steven Gabriel, 61. So for starters, Justin Cannon is going to be moving to, I believe, the left outside linebacker spot. You know what? I think he's going to be taking over that Rashad Evans, and he has taken his number. And I think he's going to take that role over very nicely. I don't think that he's at all going to be a unreliable off-ball linebacker. His overall stays the same. Gabriel Farrell here, you know what? He has a year to learn. And, with 59 run blocking, got to work on that a little bit. But I think that he can go out there and make some plays at the tight end position. We now have a stacked tight end room. And then Terrence Brooklyn here. I think that he will be an excellent run stopper for our defense. And that's probably going to be our major focus with him moving forward. Player like a James Palmer here, hidden dev, more of a physical specimen. He kind of reminds me a lot of Nico Collins, and he's going to get some opportunities. Let's go see if we missed out on any players, if we could have gone up and go get any. Terrence Harris here, we could have drafted, I think once, but was not considering a wide receiver at all. Any players that kind of like stand out, not really. I mean, of course, there's players here that we could have gone and go get, but of course, we're not going to always get the players that we want. Pat Keys, we did pass up on, who does have normal dev, 21 years old. You know what? I think I'm okay with passing up on Pat Keys, no matter how much we could need a safety in the upcoming season. So, well, now we're going to get into some simulating. Now we're going to go through year 6, and we're going to really see what this team can do. So this will be the team entering here in year 6. We still have pretty much the same offense across the board, same starters. Dameon Pierce is going to be getting all the touches here. You know, I'm going to be monitoring the third receiver spot, you know, with Gino Duval. You know, we have players on the bottom of this roster that I really like, and Duval has to prove himself, in my opinion, this year. We'll also be keeping on the eye at tackle here with Jake Matthews. Could replace Troy Agnew if necessarily a need. I'm going to give John Dawson and Dwight Pianzo here in the base defense, the run stopping downs. David Elliott, I got to find him a role on this defense. I might just replace him and Pianzo. But this will be the starting defense here. We got our top tier linebackers, safeties. Happy about all of these spots. I might switch even Grubbs and Larry Young, just to give Young more opportunities to start. Here are the specialists here. Matt Gay is still the starter. And yeah, I'll end up moving, what's his name? David Elliott to defensive end and Larry Young here to the backup safety. We're just going to be switching them around just because we have packages with the safety spots. I'm going to let the CPU handle the rest of the practice squad. But Leon Holt did go to the practice squad. He's probably the only name you guys should be recognizing. So let's get into year number 6. These will be our scouts for this year. We're going to go, I believe this is off-ball linebacker and on tackle here. We're going to go also defensive end and off-ball linebacker. Trying to look at pass rushers a lot, as well as safeties, some wide receivers, middle linebackers, and corners. We're really focusing in because I have no idea if we can re-sign Nick Bosa. And after that, I'm going to be letting now the GM basically take over both the weekly trainings as well as the scouting. I'm going to be kind of done doing that for the team. Okay, we're 3 games in and we are 0-3. My goodness. This is not good. We have a new injury on after our last game. John Franklin Myers dealing with an injury. Tunsil's dealing with an injury right now. But my goodness, we are 0-3 right now. Wow. We are legitimately one of the best teams in this league. And we lost a very much of a blowout, it looks like here. We tried to make it a comeback, kind of, not really. It looks like the Ravens just absolutely demolished us here in week 1, and then in week 2, the Panthers, the Super Bowl champions, went out there and just said, nope, you're not doing anything. Mason Pryor had one of my type of days. And then versus the Seattle Seahawks with Cooper Kupp, the new addition, they went out there with Timmy Hall and had a great day. Mason Pryor had himself a good day. So I have no idea what the heck's wrong with this team. But we're starting off the season 0-3. My goodness. We do have some negotiations to look at. Let's start with this, I guess. Over $100 million. We have Nick Bosa, John Franklin Myers, Mason Pryor, Tunsil, Jalen Petrie, Jabril Peppers, Matt Gay. We have a ton of starters. Scott Washington, Richard Palmer. My goodness, we have a lot of decisions to be made, and the unfortunate truth right now is I have no idea what the heck we're doing. The first contract, let's just get it out of the way, and that is with Mason Pryor. We need to get Pryor under contract now before we start losing more football games. So we're going to make this a 5-year, $150 million. This is actually relatively cheap. But Mason Pryor is back as a Houston Texan. He will be back for the rest of the rebuild. And now we have $96 million to work with the rest of these players. But I'm gonna sim now to right around to week 8, and then we will really evaluate what we should do here in year 6. Well, we've made it to now week 6, and we are 3-4. We're at our bye week. And yeah, we've gotten some victories over, you know, we were able to pick up a couple victories versus the Chiefs and I believe the Jags. But this 0-3 start has really hurt us. We also lost to the Colts as well as last week to the New England Patriots. Actually, no, we won. Excuse me. We won a close game. In reality now, it's like, what do you do? Because, you know, we're 3-4. There's still a lot of football left to be played, but how much of this team do we really trust to now go out there and win? And I think with the current state of the roster, I think you kind of have to sit back and say it's time just to sit here and trust that this team can go out there and go do it, less than anything, you know, because we have very good talent. Was it just me that masked all the fucking terribleness of this team? You know, because I don't understand how we're right now 3-4. We should be one of the best teams in this league, and we are, but unfortunately we're just not winning. So I think that right now, I think two things that come to my mind. Do we, for one, sell some of our assets that, if we possibly can, as John Dawson here is getting a good upgrade here, trying to just work on his pass rushing moves. Do we sit here and try to trade away some of our assets, or do we sit here and keep the assets and move forward, as Nico Collins is right now dealing with an injury? Let's go check out some stats here before we make any sort of decisions here. So right now we have the 23rd ranked offense here. Mason Pryor's not having himself a good start to the year. And the 19th ranked defense. Pryor, okay start. Not the best, not the worst. Could be better. Damian Pierce looking good out there. Happy about that. Nico Collins helping out as the best that he can. Paul Wilkerson has done absolutely nothing on the roster. Richard Palmer's helped out. Duval has done his job. It might be a change there is potentially needed. You know, the offensive line, they're doing okay. Tunsil is struggling this year. Not worried about it, but kind of worried about it. Defensively, Nick Bosa has 2.5 sacks. Stephen Dalton has 2 sacks. How the heck do we only have 2 sacks? How the heck does Nick Bosa, through 7 games, only have 2 sacks? What the hell? That's just not good enough. You know, I think we sit back. I think we trust the process, and we go from there. I think in terms of negotiation, we sit back and wait on it. In terms of scouting, I'm going to talk about that probably at the beginning of the next episode. So yeah, I think we should sit here and trust the process. Well, we have 5 more games left here in the regular season. We're 6-6, and you know, we strung together a couple victories that have kept us afloat, but overall we've stayed relatively the same since the bye week. You know, we got this massive loss, then we won 3 straight, which kind of kept our season going, but then we lost a very close one here to the Colts, which is not good because the Colts are really stringing together a lot of good victories, and you know, it is very unfortunate right now, and I don't even know how our team is playing really this badly. But 6-6, we still have 5 games remaining for the regular season. If we look at the current playoff picture right now, I don't think that we'll be in it, and right now we're not. We're outsiders looking in, and hopefully because we gotta just string together some more victories. But let's talk a little bit about any sort of free agency and stuff. We still have $96 million to work with. We have Nick Bosa, John Franklin Myers, Jalen Petrie. Tunsil contract, Jabril Peppers, Matt Gay, Scott Washington. My goodness. Okay. Got a lot of work to do. And a lot of depth players here. So, I mean, if we're looking at the back end here, I think a lot of these players like Wilkerson and Hitchcock, we probably can move off of these guys. You know, a lot of these guys we can probably, move off of. We'll probably either offer them a one-year deal just to keep them on the roster. You know, I think for a player like a Richard Palmer, probably going to be moving off of him, even though he is a quality starter. What has he done throughout this campaign? I mean, he's putting up another good season here. I definitely think that Richard is doing very well, though we did draft a tight end, so we did draft technically as a replacement, so I think that does make a whole lot of sense to move off of him. Scott Washington, though, is a player that we should try to keep. He's young, he's a good lineman. We're not paying a lot of linemen right now currently on the roster. A 5-year, $30 million. He's saying he can find a better fit. I still want to continue working on him because I think Scott can be a quality starter for the remainder of this rebuild. Matt Gay, I don't know just yet. Tunsil's contract, I don't know just yet. For Jalen Petrie, he's probably the next one that I kind of want to work with. You know, I really do not want to replace two safeties or really one safety at all because we have Larry Young. So how about a 3-year, $39 million? I'm happy to stay with this organization. Okay, so we keep Jalen, so that's good. Nick Bosa, that's the interesting one. I have no idea what we're gonna do with Bosa because that is a lot of money that I don't think that we can really afford. And what I mean by that is that we have a lot of younger, other talented players. John Franklin Myers is that luxury player currently on the roster. With Tunsil, it's very simple in my eyes. He wants to be here. We should keep Tunsil as long as we possibly can. So we'll offer him this one-year deal. He resigns. So we'll come back to the negotiation table with Scott Washington. And yeah, we just have to make a decision here on Nick Bosa. Bosa might get the franchise tag if necessary, but he might not. But we have 5 games remaining for the regular season. Can we make a playoff push? I believe after that loss versus the Tennessee Titans, we have been officially eliminated from the postseason. We have a 6-9 record, nice. But I think that we've been now officially eliminated from the postseason because of that. So right now with a 6-9 record, 3rd place in the AFC South. I mean, we currently have 3 teams that are still like that have gotten their spot in the playoffs, but I just don't see it. I mean, maybe, possibly, I don't see it. So I think for the remaining 2 football games, I'm gonna put out the backups and just gonna try to get as much development for these young players as we possibly can. We're gonna come back to the negotiation table now with Scott Washington here. He wants more money, understood, and I will gladly give you more money. Please stay. Scott Washington stays for the next 5 seasons, so we have our 2 starting guards for the next 5 years. So I'm gonna go start the backups now. Well, year 6 ended with an 8-9 record. The 22nd points per game, and an average offense, and a below average defense. I don't know what happened to our team as we entered into this season. It's not at all what I expected from us. We had the 21st ranked offense in terms of yardage and the 19th ranked in terms of passing and in terms of defense. Mason Pryor looked like he had a type of season that he normally does. Over 4,000 passing yards, 31 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. Okay year. Not the best, not the worst. Kind of lines up with everything else that he has done throughout his career. So the offensive line also took a step back, allowing 36 sacks. Damian Pierce over 1,000 yards by 2 yards. 9 touchdowns. Mason Pryor added 3 on his own, and Devon Wooden added to 55 and a touchdown. So got the second year back to get some carries, but it was all Pierce, and we really couldn't run the football particularly great. Nico Collins did his job, 91 catches, 1,400 yards, and 13 touchdowns. But after that, you know, Paul Wilkerson, very underwhelming type of season, 63 catches, not even 800 yards and 2 touchdowns. Richard Palmer had a very good year, 63 catches, 787 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gino Duvall as the third option, okay season, if you kind of say that. A little bit better than his rookie year, but we kind of need Paul Wilkerson, we need Damian Pierce, we need the big three to step up here. Pierce did some work out of the backfield. James Palmer added 3 touchdowns as a rookie, so that's good. Gabriel Farrell, he had a okay season as one of the backup tight ends. I think he got some playing time. And who allowed these sacks? Tunsil went back to his old ways as he did in his first season, and Troy Agnew struggled at tackle. He is more of a guard, but he's going to be playing tackle for us. And for the rest of the line, they played relatively well. So defensively, though, Roman Nova led us in tackles and got some good plays here. Stephen Dalton, and that is not Stephen Dalton's role as a run stopper, but 12 tackles for loss. Nick Bosa added 11. John Dawson added also 11. And Nick Bosa added 11 sacks, and he started the season with 2. So a better second half of the season. David Elliott, though, 8.5. That's very promising. Stephen Dalton kind of lines up with his career. Dwight Pianzo took a step back with 3.5 sacks. John Dawson added 2. Not too much pressure here from John Franklin Myers. And Jalen Petrie added 3 interceptions, and Derek Stingley added 1 of his own. Let's look at some award winners here. Josh Allen won MVP. Kevin O'Connell here, Coach of the Year. I'm only going to focus on the AFC. So we have Jonathan Taylor, Offensive Player of the Year. No one here for the Texans. Myles Garrett, Defensive Player of the Year. No one of the Texans. Rookie of the Year, whoever Tim Murray is. And James Palmer was number 6, so that's cool. We also had the tight end at number 10. Defensive Rookie of the Year, I do not see a Texan. Josh Allen, Quarterback of the Year. Still don't see a Texan until Pryor is number 10. Let's see, no one here for us here. Not even a Wide Receiver of the Year. Collins was number 7. Nothing here for the offensive line. I don't think that we'll have a defensive lineman. Nope. Josh Allen, Linebacker of the Year. And defensive back, same thing, and then kicker. So unfortunate. First season of this 5-year, 5 years is off to a terrible start, I guess. Let's quickly go through any sort of just career stats, just in case if there's any retirements or anything. But Mason Pryor looking solid out there. Damian Pierce, you know, he's going to hit 10,000 yards rushing, and maybe he'll hit over 100 yards rushing or touchdowns, possibly. That is definitely in the wheelhouse. Nico Collins hit over 10,000 yards. Also in the wheelhouse here for over 100 touchdown receptions. Paul Wilkerson, we'll see what he can do if he can get there. And then defensively here, Nick Bosa over 100 sacks. John Franklin Myers next in line. We've seen our 2 players that we've developed. I don't know if anyone else. So, you know, now we're going to be entering into, if you kind of think about it like this, we're basically entering into year 2 of this 5-year sim. What do we need to do and to get this team to win? That's going to be basically the question entering now. I am going to be simming past the Super Bowl week, so we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. Okay, we've made it to the Pro Bowl, and we see the Panthers have made it back to the Super Bowl. The Buffalo Bills are representing the AFC. Let's see if we have any Pro Bowlers. I doubt it. No one at quarterback, no one at running back, not even the fullback made it in. Not even Nico Collins made it in. My goodness. Nothing here at the tight end position. I don't even think we'll have a lineman. Do we have 0 Pro Bowlers? That will be a first in this franchise. And kind of a surprise here. Jalen Petrie did make it, so we had 1 Pro Bowler. And I think that's good enough for me. Jalen definitely deserves it with 3 interceptions. So in reality, what the heck do we need to do for to get this team to the Super Bowl? Because that's ultimately, you know, to finish up this rebuild here, you know, that's basically what we're trying to do, as we will yeah, we'll sim past well, let's go see who wins the Super Bowl here. But we're trying to get to a Super Bowl and try to win it, but we're also trying to wrap up these players' careers. Those are really the 2 big goals in these 5 episodes. And, you know, as you guys can see, the Buffalo Bills have won the Super Bowl, so the back-to-back for the Carolina Panthers did not happen. Josh Allen, MVP of the Super Bowl, as well as the league. As you guys can see, Kareem Rivers, Defensive Rookie of the Year, the Falcons. I passed up on Rivers. I kind of want to, I'll check out his ratings off of this. We do have some upgrades to do. And it's all depth players. Okay, so we can let the CPU handle all of that. But what do we need to do? And this is probably going to be more of a question for the next episode, but you know, immediately when you sit here and look at this team, you know, when we just generate the best lineup here, you know, I think when you look at this offense here, we need to get another weapon here. You know, I'm expecting that Gabriel Farrell will become the starter. We're probably going to let Richard Palmer go. I think we need another wide receiver. I do not think Geno Duvall can be the guy. He is 2 years in, not really impressing me. Not even as a deep threat, not even as a big play element. So, you know, I think there's going to be changes here. We see that James Palmer has started dev, same with Roman Oliver here. But I think we need a playmaker. We potentially need another offensive lineman, because I do not know if Tunsil will stay or retire. Defensively, well, and as we see, Justin Cannon is star dev as well. I think when we look at this defense, you know, I don't think we're bringing back John Franklin Myers. I think for Nick Bosa, it's basically, for me, it's franchise tag or nothing. The question, if we tag him, is at that moment in time, would we rather just go with the youth? You know, with John Dawson, David Elliott, Dwight Pianzo, and Steven Dalton as the 4, and really downgrade at the defensive line, but you know, we have 4 young stars here that could potentially be the future of this defense. I don't know. I think we're going to let Jabril Peppers walk. That means Larry Young will probably end up becoming the starter. I've yet to even take a look at this draft class, so who knows? But, you know, Nick Bosa is really the question mark. And I think it's either tag him or nothing. So, yeah. More questions than answers at this moment in time, as we finish up the first year of this 5-year, I guess, experiment on this channel. I don't really know what the hell I'm doing, but like I said, we're trying to get to a Super Bowl, and we're trying to wrap up some careers for these players. So guys, please leave a like, comment down below what you thought of today's action, and don't forget to subscribe. I don't know how long these episodes are going to be. They will probably end up fluctuating. But guys, I really do hope you enjoy. Please give me any sort of feedback that you can. And if you are new to the channel, do expect to see, you know, if you like Madden content, this is the channel to be at. So again, guys, please leave a like, comment down below what you thought, and don't forget to subscribe. And I will see you in the next one.